All right, guys, so how much clay do you need for a big bowl? Well, I always tell my members and my students, it really all depends. Depends on what your skill of throwing is. It depends on if you have the ability to get all the clay in there. It depends on if you want a foot. It depends on how wide you want that bowl. It depends on how thick or thin you want that bowl. So I'm a bowl in a china shop, so I don't like super thin bowls. I don't like super narrow walls. I like all of my clay products, appliances, to be relatively thicker than, let's say, fine china. I dishwash everything. I stack everything in my cabinet as if not every piece is an individual piece. So how much clay do you need for, like, let's say a pasta bowl, or a pasta bowl that serves, you know, a full family in Italy? You're sitting under a pergola in Florence. So this is 5 pounds, 10 ounces. Now I know that seems like a strange number. It is the amount of clay that I just sort of pulled out of the bag and wedged up and said, hey, what am I gonna make today? So I opted for a big bowl. I'm gonna attribute about a half a pound of that for what I'm gonna leave on the bottom for me to get a good foot. So if I wanna get a good foot on a big bowl, I want it to be about a quarter of an inch to a half an inch thick. And I want it to really serve as a pedestal that picks up my sculpture. So I need to leave enough clay down there so I can allow for that. And because it's a bigger bowl, it's gonna be wider. So it's gonna be like a hockey puck on the bottom. So it's almost a reserved amount of clay that I'm gonna lose in my height, but I'm gonna allow it to give me a real good foot. So when you start with a bowl or anything, you wanna make your mound of clay the width of what you desire the end piece to be. So if my bowl is gonna be about this big, I want to allow for me to have enough foot to support it so that when I start to build those walls, they have something holding it underneath. If you start with something super narrow, you're gonna be fighting with gravity the whole time. So with 5 pounds, I'm gonna go down with my 2 thumbs and the stems of my thumbs. And the stems of my thumbs are gonna help to compress this clay that may pop up. My outside hands are supporting the outside of the clay to make sure it doesn't go all wonky. Maybe I pop some air bubbles along the way, because we all know that I hate to wedge clay. I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna stop, and for shits and giggles, I'm gonna go ahead and check my base. So, I have about an inch of clay there. Now you're gonna say that's a lot, but as I've mentioned in a few other my videos, I tend to wipe my bottom a lot. And I also tend to lose a little clay when I'm pulling my walls. I'll tend to sort of scoop as I'm pulling. Therefore, I'm losing a little bit of girth to the bottom of my foot. So because I don't feel like really learning to adjust that, because it's just how I am and how I am as a human, I just leave a little extra clay. So now again, we're thinking pasta, not ramen. So we're gonna pull towards us in a straight sort of cylinder way, and then we're gonna scoop up. I'm gonna compress that. Again, pop another air bubble. Some clay will come off. So. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this up and show you. I did get another camera, guys. So I'm gonna try and do sort of that from above. It only took me like 5 years. From above view, so I'm not constantly showing you guys what I'm doing here. My little trusty steel rib here to take it out. So as you can see, I'm wide enough here so that I have room to put things, but I'm not all the way sticking out here where I'm fighting with gravity. And there's my big chunky foot on the bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna start to pull. Now remember, we don't wanna pull out. We don't wanna fight against gravity. So I slow down on the bottom here. I want to grab that clay with my index finger on the outside, and now I want to start to travel up. And notice that I'm going straight up. So I'm not aiming for a volcano the way I would normally do a cylinder. but I'm also not yelling bowl yet. I'm not coming all the way out here. I'm gonna start down here, fill my sponge with water. I'm gonna start to go up, 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 until I get to the top. So I'm going to a point which I normally tell you not to, but there is this little bit of a wonky thing here. So if I come to a point, there's an air bubble in there. When I come to a point, I'm able to take off less clay than if I was to leave it wide. So if I'm giving it a haircut, I don't want to take off 2 inches of clay because it's so thick. So I'm gonna start down here again where it's thick, putting even pressure on my inside hand, even pressure on my outside hand. But I am starting to insinuate that this at one point in its life is gonna be a bowl. But I'm still not going past that point of return where I'm coming off and I'm fighting with gravity. So remember, your goal on everything is to build the walls up and then shake them. Because it's very hard to make things thinner while you're fighting against gravity. Scoop down here a little bit more. My inside hand is just sort of waiting. And now it starts to meet up. I'm gonna put a lot of pressure here. And now remember, I don't want my walls to be too thin because I want to stretch this into a bowl. And if I make my walls too thin, then this 1/8 of an inch will become a 1/16 of an inch when it comes all the way out here. And we don't want it to be a 1/16 of an inch. So we leave the lip definitely thicker than we want it to be in the end. And maybe it's a little thinner on the bottom because the bottom is not going to stretch as much as the top half of the pot. So I'm just going to try and sort of get rid of this little bit of wonk up on the top here. So you guys don't see me, but I actually have to close one eye to be able to see what I'm doing. Again, this is going to be a high-footed bowl. So yeah, there's about 3/4 of a pound down there. So how much clay is this? Probably about 4.5 pounds of clay after I leave the amount down on the bottom. Try and get one more pull here, make this a little thinner, and then less pressure up here, just sort of faking it. But I still have to complete the motion. Okay, so go ahead and use my new rubbery rib from Sin Tools. Yes, I like it more because it's hard. It's not as hard as the Black Kemper, but it is harder, so it gives me a little bit more ability. It's got that hole in there, and of course it's orange. So many of you may not agree with this, but I'm gonna start at the top. And I'm gonna put my sponge out here where I want my bowl to end up. My arms are very close to my body. My hands are attached like a T-Rex. And I am gonna push the lip of that to my sponge. And now I'm gonna start to draw that pot. So I'm pushing the sponge into where I want the bowl to end up. And the rib is pushing the wall up against that sponge until I get to the bottom. Now I didn't quite start at the top, so I've got this little bit of a wonky thing up on the top. So now I'm gonna start from the bottom, a little bit more pressure. I'm gonna start to slowly go up and stretch that clay. As you can see, my wheel's not going super slow, but I wanna make sure that my hands are going at the same speed of the wheel until I get to the top. Again, my lip is a little wonky, so we are gonna haircut that a little. You can see my bowl is sort of defying gravity a little bit. That's why I can't go super fast, because then the side of it is literally just gonna sort of flop down. And as many of you know, we don't like side boob on our pots. That wonk you're looking at is that air bubble from the beginning. I'm gonna try and hide that by creating this little line here. Sort of a signature bowl of mine around here is always to have this sort of ring of clay. I like that it sort of gives an ending point or a frame to my bowl. I have a little bit of a straight line here, so I'm gonna go in and micro pull that. I have one eye closed. Just gonna sort of get rid of that straight line that I had there. Now it's funny, I know that it's wonky, but until I edit my videos, I can never tell how bad it actually is. But again, no one is noticing the wonk when the wheel isn't moving. Okay, so why did I start at the top? I started at the top with the rib because you cannot put as much pressure on the top as you can the bottom. So if you start with, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, 30 pounds of pressure on the top, and you're stretching that out, as you start to go down, you're still gonna maintain that 30 pounds, but then you hit the bottom of your bowl and you go, oh wow, I could put more pressure here. So you'll increase your pressure from 30 to 50 pounds and you'll be fine. If you start at the bottom with the rib, you're gonna be putting 50 pounds of pressure on the bottom, and then all of a sudden you're gonna hit this sort of spot here where there's no clay supporting it. All of a sudden you're gonna go, oh my God, wait, I can't put 50 pounds, I gotta switch to 30. But by the time you've realized it, it's too late, and you end up with what we call the beginner bump. You're going, then all of a sudden it droops, and then you go up again. You can almost see where you realized, that you were putting too much pressure. And then I'll go from the bottom to the top to sort of finesse it a little. But when I want to do that initial stretch, I always start at the top. So then I'm gonna go ahead, grab my wood tool or my I love this tool. This is the Sin wood tool, quote unquote, made of plastic with the pin tool that folds in. Not that I ever fold it in. It's got a little thing here to hold on to. And I'm gonna hold it like this, blade going up, and I want to take off a lot, but I want to take off enough for two reasons. Number one, when I go to trim this, I don't want to be tricked into thinking that my foot should be all the way out where that clay is. And number two, I want to get into that dry clay so that when I take it off the bat, I'm not touching this wet, squishy stuff. The other thing I'm gonna do is, first we're gonna take this off. When you start to deal with bigger clay, and clay that might not be, just living in the center, is you want to get into the habit of cleaning the side of your bat here. If you don't clean the side of your bat, I'm sure this has happened to a lot of you guys, you will go to try and pick this up from the bat, and it's going to slide on the slip, and you're going to end up hitting the side of your bowl. I try and keep this simple steel rib with me at all times, slide it underneath that bat, and then I'm able to pick it up. Now, if you don't have a thick lip, when you start to even manipulate this a little bit and the bat bends, your lip is going to warp. That thick lip is going to allow it to go right back into shape when you put it back down on a flat surface. So there you go. I would say that's about a 5-pound bowl with the 8 to 10 ounces of clay that I left on the bottom for the foot. It seems like a waste, but it's gonna give me a real good foot on the bottom there. It's gonna give me some height. It's gonna allow me to get this negative space so that it looks like it's lifting off the table. I can't stand bowls that are round on the inside and their foot starts all the way out here. To me, your outside needs to indicate what's going on the inside. So by having me go all the way in here, that's where my foot is gonna start. If you have to leave a lot of clay here because you're a bit of a beginner and you're afraid that gravity is going to pull it down, that's okay. Just please, when you make your foot, make sure you look at the inside and look for the proper place. Look for my trimming bowl video. It's actually one of my most seen videos, so it must be good. All right, guys, follow me, share me, do all that good stuff, and tell me what videos you want to watch. See you soon.